that this live will be informative, it will be enlightening, it will be encouraging to our community. Father God, I ask and pray that you cover this live. I ask and pray that you download thoughts to us, Father, as we speak about a very important issue within our community. I ask and pray that there will be no technology interruptions on none of our ends. I ask and pray that our thoughts and the conversation flow, Father, as the Holy Spirit enters the conversation. It is in your name, Father, that we pray. Amen.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining in and tuning in to the Rebuild the Hood, the State of the Black Family address. Now, this is a very important conversation. And what I will say that this will be the first of many conversations because we can literally talk about the trajectory and the state of the Black family for 365 days a year for the next 35 years. So this is a very important discussion, and we're just kind of going to start with a few topics, but we will continue the discussion because it's very important to discuss where we are currently so that we can know where to go in the future. So, before I say anything else, my name is Shanice Alford, and I am the founder and president of Rebuild the Hood Incorporated. We are a 501c3 not for profit organization that is dedicated to revitalizing distressed communities via investment in small businesses and real estate. We have five organizational pillars that we operate out of, which are mindset, wealth, business, real estate, and our newest and most foundational pillar, which is family. So, thank you all for being here tonight. And I want to thank the three lovely ladies for having this particular discussion with us. So, I would like for you all to unmute and discuss and introduce yourselves.
Okay, I can go first. Hello, good people. Hello, hello. Happy Sunday evening. My name is Latricia Williams, and I am an emotional empowerment coach. I help women to reshape their mindset as it relates to emotional wellness, understanding how to identify their emotions and be able to manage their emotions in all areas of their lives. So thank you so much to Rebuild the Hood and Shanice for allowing me this opportunity to speak on such an amazing and necessary topic today. So thank you.
Okay, I am Tracy McKinney. Thank you so much for having me, Shanice. I appreciate this. This is a much needed conversation. I am the turnaround coach, a published author, business owner, and founder of She Found Her Ministries, and just looking to do some amazing things in regards to speaking about the Black family. So, this is a much needed conversation. And like you said, a conversation that can go on and on and on. And I think this is so awesome that you're doing this. So thank you for having me.
So I am Nicolia Kelly. I am the vice president of Rebuild the Hood. I believe that very rare are we able to discuss things that are kind of talked about behind the scenes, right, at the kitchen table and bring them to the forefront. I think there is also has been almost like a stigma around airing out our dirty laundry as if people can't see that our laundry is dirty. And I think having these conversations will normalize not just talking, but talking for the point of creating activation and transformation around the things that we are talking about. And so I'm very excited about this series talking about the Black family because this is an opportunity to even get our children involved because our children are watching. They've always been watching. But these children are different because they have very strong opinions about what they're seeing. And for them to have this conversation with us, almost, I believe, will build trust and restore trust. And talking about rebuild the hood is the currency is trust. If you're not trusted to build or rebuild, nothing will be built. And so hopefully these conversations will foster a level of trust and a communication where our children, our younger generations and our older generations, just intergenerationally, we will lock arms and begin having truthful conversations that bring about transformation. So I'm excited to be here with you ladies.
So clearly, we have a very, very dope panel, right, people? Everyone with a incredible viewpoint to share. So just to kind of set it up and let people know how this discussion will roll, especially in the future. So there are six discussion points that kind of flow out of when we talk about or think about like the Black family. So we can think about economic disparities. We can think about incarceration and criminal justice. We can think about education and the achievement gap. We also think about the family structure and dynamics, health disparities, and how that that affects the Black family. And then also, too, the relationship between Black men and Black women, how that affects the Black family, because you can't have a Black family without a Black man and a Black woman. So this is where our discussion points will kind of flow out of, and then we kind of conjoin it with current events. So I kind of want to start with a recent current event that's been on all of the stations and the pages, to talk about Ebony K. Williams and Ayanna Van Zant, and how they had the discussion regarding bus drivers, right? But it was bigger, in my opinion, than just bus drivers. The discussion is more about, who do you choose to partner with? And how can that really affect the trajectory of your family and of your bloodline? And then also, too, because the discussion kind of it branched off and it grew, it also talked about education and achievement and what that looks like for the Black community and for the Black family. Do we feel like being a bus driver or being a construction worker or a plumber or an electrician, are those mediocre um jobs and industries, and should everyone in the Black community reach for something higher? What does that exactly mean? So I kind of want to get you all's opinion on, initially, the partnering in the Black community, what that can mean for the trajectory of the Black family. So let's kind of start off with that. Tracy, do you have an opinion on, as far as how should we pick our partners? Is what they do, as far as for work or career, is that the most important thing in selecting a partner? So.
No, in my opinion, no, that is not, because you could go pick this, educated man, 6-figure, 7-figure a year, and he could be a monster. So if you pick it based solely off of that, but you don't even know what he's attached to, the bloodline, any of that, then you're gonna fail if you're picking it solely off of that. So we have to stop choosing that way. And what's wrong with the bus driver? What's wrong with the blue collar worker? What, I don't understand, but everybody has their choice. Everybody, has a right to choose what they like. But if that's what you solely base it upon, then no. And you have no idea who that individual is within here and in here. Yeah. Yeah.
I can agree with that, because I think a lot of people look at the resume, but don't look at the person. And then also, too, people kind of lead with what they do, but not who they are. Now, I think it's
Mhm.
very important to I do think it's very important to be aligned, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
If you don't feel like a bus driver or an electrician is equally yoked with you, then you have every right to feel
Mhm.
that way. If you
Right.
feel like you don't want to partner with that person for whatever reason, because of the fact that, just because of that they're a bus driver, I feel like that's a bit superficial. But you
Yeah,
have
exactly.
you definitely have the means and the thoughts to say that. But
Right.
I do think that people lead with more of what they do instead of who they are. And for me, it's mixed. I think
Yeah.
both things matter,
Mhm.
because you can't just say, "Oh, I'm a doctor, but I don't believe in family planning in regards
Mm.
to, oh, we're going to leave this for our children as we go on and grow up." You know what I mean? So I feel like it's not just about what a person does, because that doesn't fully describe who you are. Trish, Coley, what's you guys' thoughts on this?
I can agree 100% with you, ladies. I believe that a lot of times we attach our identity to what we do. And I believe that, in my opinion, I would not solely rely on what a person do as I am trying to choose or pick my partner. I'm looking more so at your character. I'm looking at what is your values. I'm looking at who's your source. I believe that those are the components that mean more to me than what it is that you do. Because if you were a garbage man, in my opinion, if you see that as your gift to the world and that's what you choose to do, and you are, I just don't think that it's solely related on what it is that you do. I would not pick a partner based off that at all. So I agree with exactly what you ladies are saying. It's way deeper than that. And I do also agree with you, Shanice. It's highly superficial, in my opinion, to solely base, your decision or your selection of a partner based just on what they do.
Coley, I know you
I
had something
would
to add.
definitely want to ask questions because I didn't see the clip. I really don't have the context as to why she would make a statement like that. I would want to know why she would make a statement like that. Like, what would be the context? I know for me personally, I believe that you always partner at the level of your identity. So if your identity is caught up in the lookbook, if your identity is caught up in looking good, like you said, on paper, well, then you're going to partner at that level on every level of your life. So that's no surprise there. However, like Tracy said, don't be surprised if you also run up against the monsters, because people can look the part and then be internally disconnected from, the inside out. And so I would not be opposed to, partnering with someone who is technically not at your social resume level, because I also understand formation and I understand that it takes pacing, it takes time to build to a certain level. So if you're always going after the level, you miss the opportunity to build with a person. And for me, that's invaluable. That's where the relationship is really bonded and anchored and rooted, when you're able to start with the person at ground zero and really get your roots in the ground, especially in the context of building a family. It's important when you're leaving legacy to not always say, well, I started here. Like for your children or anyone else watching, that would be very discouraging to feel like I can't do life with you unless I'm always here. And that's just simply not realistic. Like, we all have beginnings, and to say that we don't is dismissive, and it's like it's gaslighting on some levels, because we all deserve to be journeyed with no matter where we start. And we all know that just because you start somewhere or in somewhere, baby, life will happen to you and you can lose your job. And then what? And then how does that relationship pan out? So I don't agree with that. I think that if you are a support system, it can be a testament. Yeah, I started here, but baby, by the end, we was on the 3 bus lines. Okay. Like, there is power in partnership that sees the future in someone, right? Like, I don't have to say yes to you because you're not there yet. I'm saying yes because I see the potential in you, and I see that you are actively pursuing what it is that you want because of that potential. Just simply not having, housed potential just to say I have potential, but you're actively becoming better, developing, studying, being a student of life, taking opportunities, but still not despising humble beginnings. So no, I would never partner with one, and I don't think I have. I've never done life that way. So that's why I say I feel like we all partner at the level of our identities. Like, I don't do life that way. So I think my question would be to her, like, why? Like, why would that be important that he's the owner? Maybe eventually that's something we can partner together, and I would love to help with that journey or journey with you, but it's not a requirement for me to commit. There are definitely other value systems and vetting mechanisms that I have in place outside of how you show up on paper.
I think we're focused on the wrong resumes. Yes, we're focused on the wrong resumes.
Can you further expound on that? I like that point. What do you mean by that?
So you're focused on the resumes of what his career path has been. But what about the resumes of who he has dated, who he has been with, what he has done? Has he been in prison? Like, everything, you're focused on does he have mental issues? Does he have this? Those are we need to dig deep and find that out, instead of just writing him off because of what his job title is. When you can have a great God-fearing man that might be driving a bus, and like Nicolia says, that's starting and building, and you never know, he might own several bus companies later, several corporations. We don't know that, but to disregard him because he is a bus driver, that's like, come on, you know. So I think we are focused on the wrong resumes. And we hear a lot about these stories with successful men who end up committing murder and kidnapping, all kind of things. So I don't understand how in this day and age we're still saying that when we've clearly saw some great blue collar men, right? So wrong resume.
I think to kind of piggyback off of what you just said, Tracy and Nicolia, why do you want that? Why do you feel like, oh, if it's not a doctor, engineer, or lawyer, I don't want it? So what is it? Is it internal or external? The way are you feeling that way, or is it both? Is it both? Like internally, do you not feel good enough? So you have to attach yourself to someone who's a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer to boost your status and profile up, or is it external, just for show? You just want to tell people this is what my man does, and try to, you know, stun on people because of what your partner does. And like you all say, it is deeper than that. I feel like every industry and position, blue collar, white collar, they're all important. For instance, engineers and architects, they draw the specifications for buildings, but we need the construction workers to build them. So they are all important. It all coincides. So it is just more about what it is that you do. Trish, you want to say something?
I did. I believe there's a lack of self-awareness. I believe that if a person have, on paper built their life to a certain status, well, of course, I'm not looking for anything. Everything is kind of superficial because I haven't even started dealing with me. So, of course, I'm not interested in digging deeper into someone else. You know what I mean? So I do believe that there is a lack of self-awareness that is not being dealt with, that causes a person to only want to deal with someone who looks good, quote unquote, on paper, and to be able to front on other people and just say, so that's my opinion.
So I kind of want to segue it now into oh, well, did someone else have something to add before we
Yeah, I
segue?
just wanted to add real quick. It reminds me of the story of Daddy's Little Girls. So remember, she was the high-powered attorney, and a lot of her friends was like, "Oh no, you could not possibly be dating the mechanic." But the mechanic ended up owning his own shop at the end. And he was heartfelt. He was genuine. Like, she got to know the man and not what his career was, not his financial status. She got to know the individual. But at the end, he still, because now they're going to win together. And that's what it reminds me of. Had she listened to her friends, she never would have continued to date him. She almost messed it up with him, but that's what this story reminds me of. Because a lot of times we'll do it based off of what somebody else said. Like, girl, don't you dare. We'll listen to other people, and God may be like, that's who you're supposed to be with. But we'll listen to someone else. So we have to get to that, because like you said, what's in her that's making her say, no, I have to have this. I have to have that. It might have been instilled in her that you get somebody who's making exactly what you're making. You just never know the situation. But I don't think we are supposed to totally disregard blue collars. Like, we all had to start somewhere. So,
Okay, thank you for adding that, Tracy. And that was a good point with the with the Daddy's Little Girls movie, because that's exactly what happened. She was an attorney, in the movie, and I think I remember the montage where she was going out on dates with a bunch of a bunch of people. It's like, oh, okay, I can see why she was like, this is just not working. But like you said, she found someone that spoke to her soul, and I think that that's very important. I also think that it's important too to understand and realize that just because someone is blue collar doesn't mean that they are broke or poor or a bum. You can still build a family. Don't laugh, Cody. You can still build family and generational wealth and have a family mission and vision and values with someone that is blue collar. But like I stated, earlier, people are allowed to want what they want. However, we do have to dig deeper as to find the reason why. Why do we want this? What's so important about having a person that looks a certain way, that does a certain thing? Why is that important? So I kind of want to segue into another point, because this conversation got a lot bigger than just stating, oh, she doesn't want to date a bus driver, she wants to date someone who owns the bus. She talked more about wanting someone who's entrepreneurial, who's enterprising. And then that also became a conversation about the education and achievement in our communities and what that looks like for us. She basically stated that some, well, blue collar positions are mediocre, and we should strive for more in our communities. So what's you guys' thoughts about that? Do you feel like we need to strive for more in our communities as far as what it is that we do, because then that could possibly change the trajectory? Or do you feel like what she said was a bit classist and elitist, and it may be a different way to kind of push for people to do more in our community without downplaying or pushing away people who do that type of work? So what's your guys' thoughts on that?
I would say that first and foremost, we have to know in our communities that this is accessible to us. A lot of people don't know how to even embark on striving for more because, first of all, we're still struggling with who we are in the first place as a person. Who are we? What is my identity? I need to know who I am before I even know how to strive for something more. In our communities, most things keep getting taken away. And then everything is replaced with it's liquor stores everywhere, it's payday loan stores everywhere, everything that is designed to destroy our families. So while people might say, well, they just use that as an excuse and this and that, but no, I mean, we're living this every day where we're seeing, your liquor stores everywhere. Payday loan stores everywhere, everything that is designed. Why can someone go and get a gun as fast as they could order a cheeseburger? So how do you tell a person to, that they can strive for more if that's all they know? So we have to start there first. Like, I'm worthy of having more, and people have to know they're worthy. I think we have to start there first. And then, so she can say that, but she can't speak to every individual in the community. Like none of us can, you know what I'm saying? Because we don't know each and every individual story, and people have some real life traumatic stories out here. So what do you say to that individual? You know what I mean? So it's just not an easy cut and dry ABC. Let's do it. No, it's not that simple. It's not. So this is why this is needed.
Before we go further with that, can we actually define what more means? Because if I can be honest, I think we have been doing more to compensate for low self-worth. And I'm talking on a collective front. Like collectively, I feel like we have to compensate for how we came into this country, sharecropping, being slaves. Like, are we pursuing more to cover up the shame, the collective shame around our story, being in this country, being sharecroppers, being considered illiterate, being socially conditioned to almost have to fight for everything and survive, right? So are we then on this hamster wheel still continuing this narrative that was false to begin with about us being less than? So are we pursuing more to compensate for that? Like, what is more? And is more killing us? Like, can we be honest? Just because we marry these entrepreneurial people, like I'm talking to the young lady who made these comments, don't assume that they have a family mission, family values, because a lot of times people who are at that high level, they don't really see their families. They don't really spend that time, that quality time to carve out with their family. So we can't make assumptions just because we have more that it's benefiting us, because the studies are showing that it's not. Like Black women, who are the most degreed group ever, are dying of, like, cancers and fiber, like all these diseases are happening in the body because we're achieving. So does more really produce more? Like, that's my question. And I don't need to be like that monkey wrench, but I'm like, I don't want to continue this conversation without defining what does more mean. Have we defined it, or we just throwing out the words more, more, more? We need to achieve more, do more. We should want more.
So that's a great point, Coley, actually. So framing it that by the way that she had her comments, more is simply more educational achievement, more achievement in career. That's pretty much how she framed it. So it wasn't just more about developing a healthier mindset, developing healthier relationships with one another within your families. It was simply regarding more regarding education. um you can get you can get a master's degree, you can get a JD, you can get a PhD. Like, push and strive for that. Instead of striving to be a bus driver, why don't you strive to be a bus owner, where you have a fleet of buses? So that's how the conversation was framed. So for her, that's what more means. And so for the purposes of this conversation, would we agree with that, that's all that we need in order to improve our communities and be better and be able to compete, quote unquote compete? With Do we feel like that is something that is viable, but also is that healthy too? So Coley,
Coley,
Trish,
Trish,
anyone?
anyone.
I can say to Nicolia's point, the answer would be no. Because as she stated, the black woman is the most degreed woman, and still we are still dying at a very alarming rate. So clearly, there we're missing something. Something is off. So and then to be quite, I'm just going to say it, to be quite honest, who's the head of most black families? The woman. So not only am I striving, running, kicking to reach these high heights, I'm also still the head of the household as well. So yeah, it makes perfect sense that we're dying at alarming rates, because look what all we have on our shoulders. So I would highly disagree with her making the statement that we need to continue to now push that onto our children to make them think that it's okay to continue to strive for more, 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 all while strive for more in that one area and forget about all the other areas, including our health. So no, I would disagree with her on that.
Yeah, I think that it's important that we think about, I think that when we think about family and how our family tree is and what was passed down to us, I do think that it's important that each generation improves upon itself, because we always talk about generational curses, right? How things flow through our bloodline because there are chains that we haven't broken. But I don't think that it's just in regards to education and achievement. We have to break the chains of low self esteem. We have to break the chains of low self worth. We have to break the chains of feeling like we have to have this designer, but we don't have anything else to show. You know what I mean? Like, we feel like that makes us better. That makes us who we are. So I think it's so much deeper than just going to school and joining organizations and getting networks. It's so much more than that, because we've had those things for hundreds of years, but our communities still are in disarray. So we have to think about, yes, I feel like education and achievement, I do think that it's important. I do think it's important to be the best version of yourself, but not for others, but for you, because then it's coming from a very authentic place. And then because it's coming from an authentic place, people will see that. Your family will see that, and they will know mom, dad, sister, brother, uncle, auntie, they're not just doing this to put on. They're doing this because they're wanting to show me that yes, this can be done, and it can be done in a healthy way. I'm not working 90 hours per week, coming home, drinking, and then dying early of liver, cirrhosis of the liver. You get what I'm saying? Like, there's a way to balance it. And I feel like these conversations need to be more balanced. Yes, it's important to get your education because it is a way to be upwardly mobile. It is one of the ways to be upwardly mobile. However, that's just not it. we have to think about everything else that's surrounding that. We have to take care of ourselves internally, as you all stated. And as I stated earlier too, health disparities is one of the reasons, one of the 5 discussion points of the Black family, how we need to improve that as well. And it all flows down from that. So we just have to continue to have the conversation and know that it's just not about striving for more. And as you stated, what does more mean? And how can we really define it for ourselves and for our families and thus for our communities? I don't think that there's just like one specific answer of what more is. More can mean something different for everyone, to be honest. But that was a great point that you brought up, Coley. So I thank you for kind of widening the conversation in that way. Um, Another thing that she kind of discussed, Ebony K. Williams, was specifically the education and achievement for Black men. Now, as you all stated earlier, that Black women are the most degreed group in the United States. Do we feel like Black men are lagging behind? And if so, what do you feel like can be done in order to quote unquote raise them up? So what's you guys' thoughts on that?
First, I wanted to piggyback off of the women being the head and then dying of sickness, disease. Let's not skip over domestic violence. Let's not skip over murder. We just had a police officer gunned down who was scheduled to graduate next week with her master's, right? Gunned down, getting off work. So but the domestic violence is at an alarming rate, suicide, alarming rate. So a lot of times people are doing all of this work, you're busting your butt because you're trying to, I don't know, I got to do what, like I've had conversations with women who says, man, there were women who set the standard. So I had to do what they did in my family because they set the standard. So it was, the pressure was on me. I had to get it done. But then you don't know who you are. Then you go into depression and then you're just sick because I'm doing all of this and I'm doing this for what? And let's keep it real. How many people do you know that have all these degrees and they do nothing in that field of what they went to school for? They do something completely different. So it's not fair to tear men down because they're lagging behind. Maybe they didn't have the option. You know, we like she said it as if it was just that easy, and it might not have been that easy. I think we just need to really be more realistic of a lot of the family dynamics that just don't have that luxury of and that could be the case with a lot of men. They had to go out and be the breadwinner, so they didn't have time to do the schooling. You know what I mean? So I just want to add that.
I think too, and I'm gonna just throw in stuff and like remove myself to allow for Tracy and Trish to really dig in. I think too, a lot of the times we don't acknowledge that every time we're encountering a person, we're encountering their family dynamic, their family story, their family history. So we're just not encountering people as people. We're encountering their entire line of programming, conditioning, historical information. And so when we talk about, I guess, Black men collectively lagging behind, we have to look at what has happened to the family dynamic. Like, how has the Black family been treated in this country? Like, we have to look, and a lot of people, they don't see it that way when it's them experiencing another individual. But what we're experiencing as individual is also happening collectively to many different individuals, right? And so if we really think about the history of achievement, education, we can't have that conversation unless we're really talking about, like Shanice said, self-worth, self-esteem. It takes emotional empowerment, thank you, Trish, to go out here and pursue a dream, to go out here and study, to read a book, to write a paper, to do MLA format, whatever format these papers, it takes confidence. And I don't think we talk enough about just Black men being even affirmed as Black boys, Black men being poured into as Black boys, Black men being affirmed in that way translates into like adolescence, translates into the men that we encounter, we choose to partner with or not partner with. Like, it started before they were just these men. They were boys. They were somebody's son. And so to talk about the Black family, we have to really begin talking about how are we creating our family dynamics? What are our authorities in our family outside of the mom and dad told me to do it and so I'm going to do it? Or I'm your mama, do it because I told you so, because I said so. Like, what are we really creating our families to become, and by what authority are we creating our families? Now, I'm not going to get into a religious field because we are a nonprofit organization. I think our religious beliefs are our own business. But I will tell you this, if you believe that this realm is the only realm that exists, you would be crazy to believe that. We are in a dimension, but we are multidimensional individuals. So if we are partnering with people and creating families with people who don't understand that you are in charge of stewarding the life of a multidimensional human being, that's the first step before we even get into a education disparity or a health disparity. Like, you are in charge of stewarding a multidimensional being. And it's not just your children. It should be with you first. Because your example of stewardship will be modeled. Your kids are watching you. And that's what you're going to give to them and to your partner and to everyone else. So I think we have to really get in the soil of stop being so running after the cheese, running after the carrot as the horse, and just trying to do to overcompensate for not knowing why we're moving in the world, by what authority, why, what are my motives, what is my reason for getting up every day, posting whatever, studying, going to class. Like you said, is it to thumb in someone else's face to make them feel bad about themselves, to have a false sense of superiority? Like, why are we achieving and going after the things that we're going after? Is it from a place of low self-esteem to overcompensate? And you can be highly degreed and have very low self-esteem. You can be highly decorated in the social aspect and be bereft of emotional intelligence or emotional awareness. And you pass that on to your children because they have no value system. They have no container to connect to each other, to themselves, and certainly to other people in the outside world. So our families are in dire need of having these conversations.
Nicole, if I can piggyback off what you're saying, to me, I believe that there is, and I'm taking notes so that's what I'm looking at. I believe that we are pursuing performance when we should be creating foundational building blocks for our families. I believe that it is a foundational issue. I do believe that we do need to go back to our Black men. I believe that it's just a foundational issue. Nacolia touched on it, that starts from their childhood, to be honest. And, I don't think we can, dare I say, I don't think we can push them to perform without dealing with the little boy inside, because at the end of the day, he's still going to be performing. So at that point, I become his puppet master because I'm telling him, you know what I'm saying? I need you to be the highest achiever in this area, but I can see that your soul or you're a 10-year-old boy really inside, to the point where you don't even feel comfortable as a man being vulnerable and being transparent because no one told you that was okay. But I want you to achieve at such a high level, and I think that you're not going to come crashing down at some point. It's not realistic. It's not. So I do believe that there is a foundational piece that I think we should tackle. We have to tackle in order for us not to be moving around performing in quicksand.
Wait, I'm gonna let that marinate for a little bit. I'm gonna let that marinate for a little bit. Let that marinate for a little bit. What you just said, Trish, let that marinate.
I believe that's what we've been seeing this whole time, quicksand. quicksand, where you know when someone is in quicksand and you can kind of see their hand, but that's all you can see. That's the only way I really know that you're here, because I only see your hand begging for help. I believe that's what we've been seeing throughout our community this whole time.
My God. Because when they quit performing, Huntress, then they got to go and sit with themselves. My God. Woo! In the quicksand.
And when we stop requiring them to perform, who are they really? When we stop requiring ourselves to perform, who are you really without the performance?
But in order for us to require them to stop performing, and I'm not saying that it's a male against female. I'm not trying to put it that way. But what I'm saying, from person to person, in order for me to require that of anybody, I have to stop performing first. I have to know what it looks like to not have to perform, to not want to perform, and to know what it looks like to perform, so I can be able to recognize it, as I'm encountering other people.
And that's why identity and who we are and knowing who we are is so important. Before you go messing up somebody's life, heal, become whole, know who you are before you go spew all of that on somebody else. And that's the cycle that we see continuously, because it's a performance.
Yeah, I think too, because we've discussed this earlier too in the chat. And then individually when we all are keying and talking in our girl chats too, just about our identity. How many times have people gotten into relationships not knowing who they are? So how can you really move forward or press or achieve and do better and do more if you don't know who you are or whose you are? So it's very important to kind of think about it from that way as well, because you can't really build or love on anyone else if you don't know or love or build yourself. It starts with you. It really does just start with you. So y'all been dropping the mic. All the gems, dropping the gems, dropping the mic. Like I'm just really very appreciative for this conversation. I think that this has been incredibly amazing. Um so something else that I wanted to discuss before we kind of go from our little last talking points, our little final our final speeches. um the trajectory of the Black family, um what does that mean for you all, um in order for our communities to improve? What do you think can change the trajectory of the Black family and thus the Black community? And I know this is a loaded question, and we can probably discuss it for hours and hours and hours, but like an annotated version of what that kind of means for you all. And whoever wants to jump in can.
What does that look like? So Nicolia said, just think of this conversation tonight as sitting around the dinner table. And I said, what's the dinner table? What is the dinner table? What is that? How often have I sat around the dinner table with my family growing up, right? So I didn't know what that was. So when she said that, it just was like, boosh. It was like, my God, so many missed opportunities to have that family time. So what does that look like when everybody just gets their food and go their separate ways? So we see so much of that. So what I had to do was start breaking that and sit at the table with my kids. I had to show them something different. But then they still were in a dysfunctional household. So what is that? Like it's just I could talk about this for an hour. This needs to be a separate episode. Because what is it? What is it?
That question kind of stumped me, to be quite honest. The only thing that I can say is I believe that if we shift our mindset on how we love one another, how do I see other people in my community? How can I build up the men and the women and the children in my community? It's not a competition between us. We're all just one family. So that's the only thing that I can really come up with. This is a really, unfortunately, difficult question to answer, to be honest.
I think we definitely need to acknowledge that all of us have different definitions and experiences of family. If we really sat with that, if we were really aware of that, I think it would change the way we really do life with each other, approach each other, the amount of grace we give each other, the level of compassion we have for each other. It would actually encourage you to start developing your inner world, because you realize when I encounter individuals, again, I'm encountering their entire family, their definition of family, their experiences of family. And it may not, I would dare say, probably won't be what my experience is or what my definition is. So it really requires a level of humility. And that's something that a lot of us feel like we don't need to have in relationship. Sorry, my lash is coming off. But we really believe that we can do life with people the way we want to do life with them, based off of our own limited set of experiences, our own definitions. And that's really selfish. I'm sorry, I'm taking my lashes off because they're coming off. And that's just simply not realistic. It's very inconsiderate, if we're actually honest, to think that the way we do life is the only way. And I've been there. I've been very inconsiderate. I've been very unaware. I've been like, listen, like, this is my way. This is how I define stuff. So everybody, I don't understand what you're talking about. And it's very inconsiderate. Like, who's going to do life with anyone? How are you going to be successful in doing life with anyone that way? So I think we need to just really sit in the fact that all of us have different definitions of family and different family experiences. And then moving from that, we need to begin to ask ourselves, what experience do I want to have? When you realize that life is a flexible paradigm and that it can ebb and flow with your understanding, with your expectation, with your belief system, it really begins begging the question, what am I doing to build my inner world? If what I want to see doesn't look like what I want to see, what am I doing on the inside of myself to change the lens that I am seeing things out of, so that things on my outside can change? So if you came from a family experience that you don't believe served you, or that you would like to change or implement different things, because everybody didn't have a bad family experience, but they're like, I probably would do this moving forward. Like, begin assessing what that family experience is. So much traumas are in our family. A lot of people don't even assess what happened in their family. They're constantly living in avoidance, living in silence, living in shame, living in deception, living in gaslighting, living in blame, living in fault. And like that, none of that is changing anything. But when you really begin assessing, and with the help of a therapist, hopefully, and maybe whatever spiritual leader that can provide counsel, can begin helping you unpack and assessing what that family experience is, not so that you can just lie the blame there, or even lie the blame with yourself, but so that you can create a doorway to start creating something different. But you have to become different to create something different. We're not going to create anything different in our Black families until we become different, which means we have to pursue transformation. We have to pursue development. We have to pursue these things and stop requiring everyone else to show up being different when we're not different. We're not committed to doing nothing different. We're not committing to reading a self-help book. We're not even committed to sitting down and journaling about our feelings about our family. At 3, my uncle said this and it made me mad. At 7, my auntie said this to me and it made me hide. 9, like, we're not even committed to creating a chronology. I'm sorry, I just have a lot of thoughts about family, because family is very near and dear to me. Shanice and I, we talked extensively about it when talking about implementing it as our newest pillar. But I think that's how we change the trajectory of the Black family, one person at a time, one self-aware person willing to initiate the journey of doing the inner work to become aware and to understand what happened to them in their families that they didn't choose to be a part of. Can we be honest? We don't choose our families. And so, but we can choose the experiences of the families that we create. And I think that's a piece that we miss, that we're so traumatized that we're not aware that we are literally giving them the experience we did not want, because we don't realize we can change the experiences of the families we create. That's how we change the trajectory of
That's
the
how you
Black
take
family
power back. Yes.
and the Black community.
I'm sorry.
No, I love
Yeah.
that. I love that, Coley. And oof, that's amazing. That's amazing. This is really something that people can take and move forward and kind of think differently, you know, and it may not start today. It may not start next week, but you should start, and it starts with acknowledgement, acknowledging where you are currently, where you are emotionally, physically, with your family, it all matters. So just acknowledging where you are and then building upon that, making the changes, trying to transform. I think this was an amazing conversation tonight, ladies. I definitely thank all of you for your perspectives and your viewpoints. I think that this was beautiful, and this will be the first, like I stated, of many conversations, because we're going to be conjoining the discussion points that we talked about earlier with current events to kind of push the narrative and to state what we feel or what we know to be something that can improve where we are as a community. So before we go, please, please, please let us know where to find you. Coley, add your stuff too, because you're just more than the vice president of Rebuild the Hood. So we're gonna start with Trish.
Okay, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Latricia_life coach. You can also head over to my website at latriciawilliams.com, where you can look into the services that I provide as an emotional empowerment coach, as well as my first book that I wrote, which is entitled Get Out of Your Feelings and Gain Control of Your Emotions. Again, thank you so much for allowing me to have this opportunity to speak. This was an amazing discussion, and I can't wait for the next.
Tracy.
Okay. You can find me at Tracy McKinney, TRACIE on Instagram. I believe it's Miss Tracy McKinney, MS McKinney, McKinney. My website is www.tracymckinney.com. I head over and get your She Found Her tickets for my first conference. So you just, you can find me everywhere. So this was great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to more, and I want to speak with you after this about more of these conversations.
Coley Cole.
So honestly, if I can be honest, I'm just coming off sabbatical, so I have not been thinking about anything, any offerings. At this point, I do have a Facebook community that I lead, but they know I've been on sabbaticals. I've been gone for a bit, but it's called the Rested Daughters. So the issue around rest, striving, achieving, all of that. The group is founded on accepting divine, eternal opinion and allowing that to speak for us, and not working to try to be justified or to be, validated or authenticated. Our works can never authenticate what God has created us to be and our identities. And so that is really the framework that I am going to be pursuing more of, but I am really freshly off sabbatical. And so I am resting and asking for divine direction on how to unpack that and how to present that. So stay tuned.
So clearly, three powerhouse women that have an individual message, but it also aligns with what we're doing here at Rebuild the Hood. I want to thank you all just for taking the time to provide your perspective. Like it's this was amazing. I feel good about this conversation. You know how sometimes you have conversation, you be like, oh, this was a waste of time. Like this wasn't a waste. Like this was something that I feel like people can take and bite and chew on and digest and feel full. You're gonna feel full from this conversation. So before I go, founder and president of Rebuild the Hood Incorporated. You can find us at Rebuild the Hood on Instagram, Rebuild the Hood on Facebook, and you can check us out at www.rebuildthehood.org. If any of this conversation resonated with you, please feel free to provide feedback for to us. If you would love to volunteer or be a part of the organization, just please reach out. We are looking to build. We are looking to build because we need more people in order for our communities to reflect the vision that we see in our minds. We need people to do it. So please, please, please provide your feedback. If you want to help, let us know. And thank you all so much. And please, please stay tuned for the next conversation. Follow us on Instagram. We're going to let you know when we're going to be popping up again. And we're going to have our panelists here. And we're also going to encourage you to possibly even come up and join and provide your own opinions as well. So thank you all. Thank you, ladies, for your opinions. Thank you for your presence. And you all have a wonderful, amazing night. Thank you.